Hey everybody, this is Frill. Welcome back to Extended Timeline New World Order. So in the last episode we had quite a few European nations waging punitive wars against China, and they were somewhat successful. They had China release Qing and Wu, and also Yarkand, and Zunghar is actually a steppe nomad nation. We also had India doing a change of government in China, and they didn't change the government, but they took over most of western China here. So previous episodes, Myanmar had taken over most of Thailand here, and Malaya, who used to be Indonesia, changed their title, took over most of what Myanmar had taken in Thailand. Thailand just with a couple more provinces. So over in Central America, we had Mexico against El Salvador and Honduras taking all of that. Their next steps are probably Guatemala and Nicaragua here. In Africa, we had a lot going on. We had Ethiopia and Chad taking out all of Somalia here and Sudan. We also had Angola and Nigeria taking out all of Congo. We had South Africa going into Zimbabwe, leaving it just with a couple provinces. We had Mali going into Algeria, and they released Mazab and they gave some territory back to Libya here. I think Egypt is actually at war with Libya and Chad right now. Over in Iran, we had Iran taking out Turkmenistan, just a couple provinces here, and actually all of Uzbekistan as well. I think we also had Saudi Arabia going into Yemen and leaving Yemen with just a couple provinces. So looking at the armies of the world, we have the US still on top. They haven't waged any wars as far as we know. We have Russia, India completely out of manpower, so we'll see how that affects things. Germany and Malaya has actually moved in the top 5, so they're very, very strong. Looking at the wars that we have going on, Mongol Zunghar, that's about to end. Ethiopia is at war with Chad and Nigeria. We still have these Irish-Chinese punitive war of all things. We have Chad and Nigeria and Iran with Kyrgyzstan, Egyptian with Libya. So let's go ahead. It was a long intro, I'd say. Let's go ahead and get started. Wanted to see kind of what goes on here between Egypt and Chad, Libya, and Mali. I think Mali has a decent-sized army. And we'll have a look at what's going on with the Iranians going into Kyrgyzstan. That's quite strong. They have a truce with Turkmenistan, but I would assume they're going to be going in there soon. And I thought that the Russians might be preparing to invade Kazakhstan as well, but the Russians are at war with China, trying to do some sort of a change of government there. Now, whether that actually does anything or not is another question. Based on what we've seen in the World War II series and in the so far in this series, when you do a change of government, you just end up taking territory, not actually changing the government, but we'll see. Maybe there will be some exceptions to the rules there. I think Dali might have had some rebels. It looks like they took care of them. I think we might see Malaya go into the rest of French Indochina as well. So Egypt is actually losing that war so far. Just looking here, Ethiopian Chad war. Let's quickly look at that. Surprisingly, that must have just ended. It looks like Ethiopia has some claims, and Chad obviously has some claims there on their former cores. See, there are Russians, sieging out here in China, so interesting that the Chinese relations not very good with the Russians here. I did want to go around the map and just look at opinions. So the Russians probably not interested in going into Kazakhstan. They don't like India, though. They don't like Germany or Sweden. Turkey, not liking Greece or Iran, so we might see something going on there. Egypt doesn't like anybody around them other than maybe Syria. I think they have an alliance with Syria, actually. Yeah, they do. Alright. Well, it's a positive war score for the Russians there. I think we had some other wars in, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I think the Irish punitive war ended, but I don't see anything really new being established in China, anything like that. Our Zunghar is gone. Mongolia took that over. Kyrgyzstan looks like it's going to become part of Iran very, very shortly. So Iran seems pretty strong. Saudi Arabia seems pretty strong as well. Ethiopia is strong. There's quite a few nations that are just flexing their muscles so far in this series. With that said, there are quite a few of them, though. Let's see if Mali, I was checking the... Okay, they're actually at war with Burkina Faso, Ivory Coast, and Togo as well. Not sure, did they declare that war, or are they just involved in somebody else's war? We do have a Peruvian Argentina war. I want to look at that one. Yeah, this one is Burkina Faso. All of those nations going into Ghana, and Mali is all allied with Ghana, so let's quickly look. Argentina does have 37k stack. I would think that Peru would have the larger army, but just seeing a 23k, but they do have a... We just had some major jump of the camera there. Apologize for that. But yeah, we 23k, 37k, 1-star general, so that could be a good battle if it happens. Uruguay... Okay, they are actually allied with Argentina. I'm kind of surprised by that. Here's a battle going on. It looks like the Argentinians are going to lose that one unless Uruguay can show up and help, but that does not look like it's going to happen. So, yeah, Peru flexing muscle. It took over all of Ecuador so far, plus some of Colombia, a little bit of Chile. They've actually waged 2 wars against Chile so far, so I would have thought that would have only taken maybe 1 or 2 to take all of Chile, but apparently not. What have we got here? It's Mexico going into Guatemala, so that's an easy one for them. Second Guatemalan Nationalist War. Looks like Russia ended their war with China as well. So yeah, Russia taking some territory from the Chinese there. The Russians actually border... I think they actually might have bordered North Korea already slightly. No, they didn't. I think they might... I don't know, at one point in time they had a border with North Korea, I thought. But yeah, China's not doing so hot. I'm kind of surprised by that. Let's see if Malaya here tries to go in the Philippines. Looks like Iran pieced out with Kyrgyzstan. I thought they might take a little bit more than they did there. Had some other wars in... Not 100% sure what it was, though. It's Egypt-Libya war still going on. I'm surprised that Egypt seems to be struggling here. Okay, our Burkina Faso took over parts of Mali. That was one of the wars that ended. Chad is at war with many different angles here. So, interesting. Peruvian. I want to look at that Peruvian one. I'm interested in this Egyptian one as well. So let's see what we've got here. I did see that the Argentinians, even though they lost a battle at least earlier in the series, that they actually were able to get their army back pretty quickly, but I don't think that's going to be the case here. I think the Peruvians are very, very strong. They've got 2 pretty good sized stacks plus some roaming stacks back in their homeland. So so Mexico taking care of Guatemala as we thought. Next is probably Nicaragua. Does Nicaragua have any... Nicaragua's actually at war with Panama. Okay. This is going to be a pretty fair fight. Too bad for Egypt. I was kind of hoping Egypt would be strong there in Africa. I guess you can never count them out, or count anybody out for that matter, because they can certainly be released in a war at any time. Who would have thought that we would have Wu or Qing become nations in this series? But yeah, so far the Europe has been quite stable. I'm slightly disappointed by that. We've got some Uzbek separatists here in Iran, so we'll see if they can be successful. Decent size stack on that the Iranians are going to have to deal with. Libya's likely gotten back most of its territory. they lost out. They were down to only like 2 or 3 provinces there. And luckily Mali was able to release them from Algeria. And Chad had some of it too. Okay, Niger just took over a huge chunk of Chad. Chad is, I think I said they were growing pretty large at one point, maybe in the first episode. Now they are going the opposite direction. Do we have... Nigeria might have lost here, and Gabon and Congo came back, I think. I think that happened. I think... Not sure where that came from, what war that was. Ivory Coast is certainly getting large. They took over pieces of Ghana, it looks like. Yeah, so did Burkina Faso. Togo take anything? Cannot quite see that. Okay, yeah, we had Argentina's very, very small and split up. So Peru already borders with Paraguay. And they don't have any allies. I thought Uruguay was in that war and they'd be an ally, but apparently not. We need some alliances here to fend off the Brazilian threat, I would think. Brazil's going to be very strong, although with what I'm seeing from Peru, they might be able to go it alone against Brazil. Russian, Belarusian. Okay, so we've got a bit of a war in Europe. Who is involved? Belarus, Austria, and Ukraine. So that's actually quite a good one. Who declared that war? Okay, it was Russia. We also had a Guyana war there, so Ukraine has a pretty decent army. I would think that the Russian army is probably mostly over on the east, so Ukraine might be able to, and Belarus might be able to siege out some territory before the Russians. Yeah, one of the problems with the AI here, I mean, the Russians are the one that declared this war, so why wouldn't you prepare your army before you declare that war? Make sure they're at least on the border with what you're about to invade. One of the little picky things that we can have in the EU4 in Modern Wars. Quickly looking at, so Brazil's probably going to take out Uruguay very, very quickly. Like I said, I'm surprised that Uruguay and Paraguay were not targets earlier than this, actually. Panama won the war against Nicaragua. So, Mexico and Panama, it's actually very similar to the World War II series. That happened, but I think Panama actually had a little bit more territory up into Mexico, Belize, that area. So our was it Uzbek separatists? Looks like they're gone. Been taken care of. Angola's pretty good size. South Africa's, at least they've got some allies. This war between Egypt and Libya still going on. The Russians are negative on their war against Belarus, Ukraine, Austria. I'm going to focus on that one, I think, and see if the Russians can actually get over here and face off. They don't have any actually leaders on these stacks that they're fighting over here, so not too good for them. They did previously take over Georgia. Yeah, are we going to... Just looking around the map here. Guess we should look at forts. Do I have the forts on here? There we go. So yeah, they've actually sieged out Moscow. Okay. It's been a little while since the Belarus warred with the Russians. Ukraine's just kind of... Here we're finally starting to get some Russian armies over here. We've got at least 100k scattered around. No good leaders on these armies, though. Just 1-stars. The Russians need to work on that a little bit to get their land tradition up. So Brazil looks like they finished off with Uruguay, and now they're at war with Bolivia, so it might be smart, assuming Peru actually has the manpower to... Well, the Brazilians look like they've got about 100k. They got a 48k and a 50k, so... Not sure. I think Peru, though, has the better leaders. They've got 2 stars on both stacks, whereas Brazil has 1 stars on of those 50k stacks. Is Peru also at war with Bolivia? So they're both trying to fight over Bolivia here. Whoever can capture it sooner. Where are the forts at? Looks like the forts are on this side here, so that should be good for Peru, that the fort is right there. Obviously these... Although it doesn't look like they're actually going after that fort. Yeah, they're gonna let Brazil take it first, so much for that thought. Okay, so Egypt looks like they finished off that war. They took a little bit of Libya, but not much. Mexican Panama, so Mexico is going into Panama. Very negative for Belarus there. Not very good for the Russians, who have, you know, top 5 army in the world here. They're gonna lose this one. Definitely, they're gonna lose that. Oh yes, we were gonna check out... Yeah, here's a good battle. Can Panama pull something? No, they... Actually, wait. No, they did not. The Mexicans won that battle. Kind of caught it at the end there. Wasn't quite sure. I thought that the Panamanians might be able to pull that off. With that crossing penalty or whatever, the terrain penalty. Whatever was there. So, Peru does have the higher war score, though, against Bolivia, so that helps. Mexican, Brazilian, Guyanese. Let's see if there's anything. Nothing else has been released from China, so China needs to just, like, rebuild their army and prepare for an invasion of India, I would think, anyway, to try to regain back some of Western China. So, did we have... Okay. Looks like Ukraine's just going to be able to get back territory that they have cores on. Or does Ukraine have cores? Yeah, they do have, like, 1. But I think the Russians are going to lose this one, although they are... Got Austria in here now. We're an ally since the start, but they do have a decent leader. Looks like the Russians are sieging back down Moscow here, so that'll turn the tide of the war once that happens. And it looks like, to me, that Bolivia has been split between Peru and Brazil. So very, very quick action here. We've got Bolivian separatists already rising up for somebody. Looks like Mexico is going to take over Panama shortly as well. Anything else? I'd like to see some wars in Europe, but just I have not seen any of that so far. Maybe I should have removed the EU nations in this series. Swiss noble rebels. Okay, wait, we missed this, but Germany had taken over Switzerland. Okay, we still have... Okay, no, Yeah, we do have Switzerland still. They've got 1 province. Okay. Interesting. So we completely missed that one. I don't know where that came from. I guess it was so quick. You got some Turkish reactionaries rising up. Yeah, okay. That's a pretty good size rebels there. Sudanese peasants, so they're not really very happy with the course of their country. Actually, now with that said, I don't think Sudan existed anymore, so it must have come back. I thought Ethiopia completely Oh yeah, it was probably because Chad was losing wars, and they probably were able to get their independence either being released or similar to Gabon here and Congo were re-released in some wars there. But yeah, it actually does look like we're out of time for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, please hit the like button. It really helps out the channel. And I'll see you guys next time.